Let's talk about your next level. Your next level. You know, it's interesting. That phrase. I used to love that phrase. Your next level. You know, I want to get to my next level. And when I think about it, I was like, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? Because when you ask people to quantify, often I ask, you know, if you're in my coaching community, I often ask people, you know, what do you really want? And they tell me that they want to achieve a certain amount of clients and a certain amount of money. And they'll maybe say, like the cliche, £10,000 a month, right? And then I say, would you be satisfied with £9,000 a month? And they say, oh yeah. And I go, so you don't really want 10,000. You just pick that number because you think that that's a societal number. You've not really thought it through. And I think a lot of people do that when they think about like this term next level. I think it's a thing that most people don't really know what that is. And I've come to realize that there's a way of kind of knowing from my own experience of knowing that you have achieved your next level, which is really quite simple. And it kind of comes from, I may have spoke about this before. Michael Jordan talks about how an interviewer once said to him, you know, why are you the best? You know, why did you become the best? And this kind of stuff. And he gives the obvious answers, but then he talks about how he says everybody else in the league was competing with me and I was only competing with myself. He said, I was competing with myself from a year ago. He said, so if I played against Detroit on a Wednesday this time last year, I was looking at my numbers and going, how can I beat my numbers? Or like for me as a kid, I used to run cross country for county, and my trainer, Rob would always say, you know, you're only aiming to beat your personal best. You're not even aiming to win the race because you can't control that, but you can control your personal best. And if you beat your personal best, then you've run faster than you've ever run, which means if you don't win, you've won, right? And I think really that is what this video, I could have called this video like your personal best. Maybe I'll use that for the thumbnail in the video, right? But Steve Jobs has got this concept, and then I'm going to kind of get into the real meat and potatoes of this video. Steve Jobs says, you can't, in this, he spoke in this beautiful Stanford University address many years ago before he tragically then quite poignantly passed away, because he talks about how you can't connect the dots in your life moving forward. You can only connect the dots in your life looking backwards. And what's really interesting about that for me is it links to a video I was watching the other day which talked about this thing called the 2-year echo. This thing called the 2-year echo. I'm just going to adjust my screen because there's something's, there we go. Just want it a bit brighter. Give me a minute. There we go. That's better. So there's this concept called the 2-year echo. And what it basically said was that everything in your life today is an echo of you 2 years ago. So what it's saying is everything in your life, everything that you have in actuality right now is something that you planted seeds on, consciously or unconsciously, 2 years ago, and now is in your reality today. So for example, when I think about like the past 2 years for me have been like big. Like it was just under 2 years ago that I was in a really, really dark place and was going through a real awakening period. I was listening to a lot of Eckhart Tolle. I was getting angrier and I was getting moodier and sadder and was arguing with Sati and was getting really agitated. And then I started therapy, and then I joined a men's group, and I started to realize things, started some shadow work, and I started to realize some things about myself, that there was some flaws, especially in my emotional part of me. I wasn't very well emotionally regulated. I wasn't emotionally articulating myself well, which I kind of modeled from my mum growing up as a kid. And over the past 2 years, I was spending a lot of time working on improving those areas. And I am by no means perfect. But man, am I more emotionally regulated than I was 2 years ago. Like I said, I'm not perfect. Far from perfect. But in the emotional category, if before I would have considered myself like a 2 out of 10, being harsh, I'm just picking a random number, but it was a low score for me, for my standards. For what I expected of myself being a person that was into personal development, had high expectations, probably too high. That's a story for another day, right? Self-compassion, all that. But the score is considerably higher now. And I put that down to the echo of what I've been doing over the past 2 years. You could say the same with somebody who is working on their health. The bottom line is, if they make a decision today and they make changes to their health and they follow through for 2 years, their health is going to look considerably different than it does today, right? Considerably. If a person's financial situation isn't good and they start educating themselves and start studying about money and wealth and the psychology of wealth, and they follow through and take action on that learning, their wealth and financial situation will be considerably different 24 months from now. So your next level, I believe, your next level should be less about a phrase of wanting to attract things, because I think a lot of people think about next level in terms of outcomes. Forget the outcome. Forget the outcome. And focus instead on the habits, the rituals, the behaviors, and specifically the identity that you need to be to increase the probability of achieving the outcome. You can call this, high performance habits, atomic habits. I all think habits are great, but it all starts with identity. You've got to make the decision, who do you want to be 2 years from now? You've got to pick an area. So with your coaching, an old way of looking at it, the way I would have maybe taught it before, was about doing certain habits. And I've got clients that have either done the habits and not got the result, or they haven't done the habits and therefore haven't got the result. And fundamentally, both occasions it comes down to identity. Both occasions, the person has got a sense, they're running a story of unworthiness. They're not worth the outcome. They're going for it aggressively and are not attracting it because they're needing it to validate themselves, or they're not going for it all to keep themselves stuck because it's safer. It's safer and more certain. There's more certainty in staying in the comfort zone than there is in going out of the comfort zone. And at the moment, I am literally playing with doing things that are not normal. So 2 weeks from this video, I'm skydiving. Never skydived before. Next Friday, I'm in a studio recording YouTube ads. I've never recorded YouTube ads. I'm making a point of doing things that I haven't done before. Yeah, I'm reading financial material that I've never really read before. Because I recognize that if I want to have new results 2 years from now, my life 2 years from now, high probability, will be in direct proportion to the things that I do today. But before I even think about doing, because I think habits are something that can kind of run their course, if you don't have a compelling reason why you're doing them, And I think the why ultimately starts with making a decision. Who do you want to be? Not what do you want to achieve, who do you want to be? Because, I truly believe the purpose of a goal is not to obtain a goal. The purpose of a goal is to grow. The purpose of a goal is not to obtain a goal. The purpose of the goal is to grow. If the purpose of the goal was to have the goal, then you'd achieve your goal and you'd be elated. But most of the time, what people do is they achieve a goal and then they think about the next goal. Right? So the goal is like a checkpoint of growth. The goal is like a reward for upgrading your identity. And I actually think one of the things I think it's really important to do is do things that do things that contradict the old version of you. So like me doing YouTube ads next week is a contradiction of the old me. The old me wouldn't go to a studio and record YouTube ads. But I'm seeing people on YouTube doing YouTube ads, and I'm getting into this comparing, and I'm like, I need to do YouTube ads. There's one thing I believe is that, comparing is unhealthy, but it's also sometimes, I believe, an indicator that, I'm a Christian, so forgive me, I'm not going to go religious, but I have a belief that there's something higher, there's a higher power, there's a universal, spiritual, I believe for me it's God, is drawing things in for my focus to compare myself to, because he's saying, you should be doing that too. Like when I see a Lamborghini drive down the road, I'm not thinking, I want a Lamborghini. When I see somebody recording YouTube ads, I go, man, I want to record YouTube ads. Because that, for me, constitutes growth. Getting the Lamborghini doesn't. It doesn't float me, right? Or if I see somebody doing some amazing... I've got a friend of mine, Stephen, who is doing some amazing philanthropic contributions at the moment out in... I don't want to get the country wrong. It's not Ghana. I can't remember. It's an African country. And he's doing some amazing things out there. And I see him doing it, and part of me compares myself, but I recognize that's good, because that's like God saying, come on, like you should be, not like should as in like I'm not worthy, but like as in, if you see that, then maybe that's a sign that if we all are truly one, then it's time for me to put my my value add to that that thing, like energetically put that out as well. So remember, 2-year echo. Highly likely, 2 years from this video, you are going to arrive at a destination, and it's likely to be in a direct correlation with the things that you did today. Not next week, not 3 months from now, today. And it all starts with habits. And underneath habits is identity. So before you start the habits, make a decision that 2 years from now, you want to be a specific type of person. There's a very specific type of business owner that I want to be 2 years from now. There's a very specific type of husband, of father, of coach that I want to be 2 years from now. And I know I need to do the work now for me to be able to have that happen in reality 2 years from now. Hope you've enjoyed this one. I have. I'll see you tomorrow. Namaste. Peace out.